Hello and welcome to the podcast. This is Johnny.
And this is Ryan.
In this podcast, we dissect and analyze a movie and enjoy a free-flowing conversation as we go.
Today's movie is Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, directed by Michel Gondry and starring Jim Carrey and Kate Winslet from 2004. Spoilers throughout. This is for people who have seen the movie or who just really like having entire good movies ruined for them.
And like usual, this movie is available to watch on Netflix right now, so if you haven't seen it, we recommend you check it out.
Definitely. It is about a couple, a man and a woman, who's Jim Carrey and Kate Winslet, who their relationship falls apart, and to break up with him, Kate Winslet's character, Clementine, goes to a clinic that will erase all records of Joel, Jim Carrey, from her memory, so she ceases to ever know he existed. Doesn't tell him she's doing this, doesn't even formally break up with him. He finds out that she did this, he decides to have it done himself, and the bulk of the movie actually takes place inside his head as he's being whisked around his memories of her, and you get their relationship in reverse, starting with the quote-unquote present day and moving back through the deletions back to when they met. And it also tracks the trials and tribulations of the staff and the doctor who performed the procedure.
Brain damage.
The brain damage, who performed the brain damage. But really, it's just on par with a night of heavy drinking, so...
Yeah.
No big deal.
I couldn't have said it better myself.
So, Johnny.
Yes.
What are your initial thoughts on Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind?
Well, this is a movie I've seen a number of times. It's been a while.
What's the number? What's the number of times?
Ooh. Less than 5, but more than 3. So 4.
4.
4.
You know that for sure, huh?
No.
Oh.
I'm making an educated guess.
Why do you lie to me?
I'm a compulsive liar.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so you've seen it a number 4 of times.
Yes, probably. Something like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's a delightful movie. Bit heavy, which I like, though.
I was going to say, delightful is an interesting word choice.
I realized after I said it that maybe delightful was not the best word.
It's not untrue, though. Like, I love watching this movie. It makes me feel... what's a word for it? I'm going to show off my vocabulary here. It makes me feel good. Yeah.
How do you spell that?
Good.
Right. Yeah. No, it does, but it's also, it's really heavy. It's emotional. It's really easy to put yourself in the shoes of these characters because they're portrayed so well.
There is kind of a profound sadness to it in a way that's very relatable.
Absolutely. You see, you think of like these perfect relationships, and especially in movies, you see nice little happy relationships, and everything ends up working out.
Right.
And this one, it's kind of left up to viewer interpretation on whether or not it was a happy ending. Even it was an ending.
Should we jump straight to the ending and talk about the ending first?
I mean, we could. I mean, that's what this movie does.
Well, that's very true. I meant the ending of the movie. But
the ending
good
of the
fucking
movie.
Point.
Yes.
Everyone's already seen it, right? They're not watching it as they listen. I thought that there was a moment. I think it's the last line of the movie when she's trying to leave his apartment. They've both heard the recordings of them, talking about why they erased each other, and she's just gonna leave, and then he catches her in the hallway, and he's like, just wait. She's explaining all the reasons why they shouldn't try again. She's gonna get bored with him, he's gonna get annoyed with her, and he just looks at her and shrugs and goes, okay, and she just says, oh, okay, and they both start laughing, and it's like, then it becomes clear that they're gonna try again. And I loved it because to me, that shrug and that okay and that laughter just said, life sucks and you do it anyway. You do your best to live your life and it's worth it. The suck is worth it. And that's why this to me has a happy ending, even though maybe the characters do break up again and maybe it's not destined to work out. But a movie that's willing to admit that life is shitty and annoying and boring and that you should still do it because it's worth it, that made me feel good.
I felt like it also toyed around with the idea of fate. being that even despite the fact that they both had this procedure done, they still managed to find each other in Montauk on a beach at 10 a.m.
On a work day
in February.
Yeah.
And it makes you wonder if it is just going to repeat itself. If it's not going to work out, you're going to give it a go. But it's fate that it's just not going to work out again. Much like them meeting each other on that beach after having all memory erased. But then I wonder if, because a lot of the issues with their relationship, I think, was not being open in communication. And after hearing each other's tapes, I wonder if that is a way of showing now all of it's in the open.
Yeah, everything's on the table. I totally agree.
Yeah. So, I don't know. That's why I was saying that it was, I feel like it's up to interpretation, whether or not history repeats itself or because of this drastic event and then finding each other again, if things will be different this time around.
Yeah. I definitely think that hearing those tapes fundamentally alters whatever fate their relationship may have had for the second go-around versus the first go-around. The last shot of the movie is of them running through the snow on the beach, and then it cuts and it's just a repeat. It shows you the same thing 3 times, and I feel like that's kind of the filmmaker saying that it's gonna just repeat and go the same way. And honestly, that scene kind of just haunts me to this day. 15 years after I first saw the movie, it still fucks me up, because what happens in the movie makes me feel like that's not necessarily the case, and then they just leave you with that to be like, well, it could though. It could just all repeat exactly the same. Okay, fade to credits. That fucked me up. But there's enough there in the movie that it's ambiguous enough that it's satisfying that you get to make your own interpretation of it.
And what I just realized is, while the story revolves around the characters Joel and Clementine, there's another story happening at the same time between the doctors and the technicians at this memory erasing clinic,
which is a Mickey Mouse operation.
Yes,
it's janky as hell. I love at the beginning when they're first coming into his apartment and you see their equipment and the helmet they're gonna put him in just looks like a colander or something.
It looks like a prop out of Star Trek.
Yes, the original series.
Yeah, no, the original Star Trek series.
Yeah. And their van has the company name on the side. It's Lacuna, but the C is missing. They make you feel like these people don't know what they're doing, and it turns out they kind of really don't.
Yeah, it's not an exact science with this memory erasing stuff. But while we're experiencing the entire relationship of these two characters via memory erasing,
the journey backwards through the memories.
Yeah. At the same time, we find out, it takes a little while to get to this point. It's kind of hinted at in the beginning, but we find out that the character Mary, played by,
second movie in a row,
Kristen Durst, 10 years later, and she's really coming to her own.
After she did Interview with the Vampire, which was our last episode.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
But we learn about her complicated relationship with Dr.
Marswiak.
I'll just call him the Doctor, which is played by Tom Wilkinson. And a similar thing happens with them, where we find out that they had an affair. And
Doc is married.
Doc is married, and he convinces her to go through the procedure, yet in the end, they end up in the same predicament where she falls in love with him again.
Has a crush on him.
She's got a crush on him. She's got a stupid girl crush, as she says to the wife when she finds out.
Yeah.
And it's similar to Joel and Clementine finding each other again despite, which just goes to show just how shoddy this company really is.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a little different for them because they work together.
Yeah, it is. But also, if you remember in the beginning, when Mary's on the phone with the patient saying, no, you can't have 3 procedures done in one month, which told me that it was an unsuccessful 2 procedures that she had. I
took it to mean that it was just a third person she wanted erased from her memory in a month.
It doesn't really get into it, so...
It doesn't, yeah.
Potato.
I love that she says, oh, you can't have 3 in a month, and then she's like, and it takes place in February, and she's like, but we can fit you in March 1st. Like, you can't have 3 in a month. That's the policy, but we'll get you right in on the 1st.
We'll get you in here.
There's a lot of really good, like, just little... This movie had superb, unmatched attention to detail.
Yeah.
I mean, I know we talked about it in the Hot Fuzz episode we did, about how there's a lot of things that, you know, refer back to each other, and it was a very well planned out movie. And that was true plot point wise.
Yeah.
In that one, and just like little references. But in this, there's just like, there's the kind of details for things that are just never going to come up again that just were really nice to have in the scene.
Yeah.
Especially, like, this is a movie that rewards repeat viewings really well.
We watch a lot of those, don't we? We've seen 2 now. Hot Fuzz. Had some rewatchability.
Yeah.
Just
Magic Mike is the most rewatchable of the films we've done so far.
I guess. There was a quote in this movie that actually ties into the relationship of Kristen Durst and the Doctor, and actually kind of sums up the plot of the movie. And it also has the title of the movie in the poem. Oh, it's a short poem.
It's almost like they let you know that it's important.
Yeah, it's strange. The quote is from Alexander Pope. Kristen Durst is asking the Doctor if she'd ever heard this quote. And it is, "How happy is the blameless Vestal's lot, the world forgetting by the world forgot, eternal sunshine of the spotless mind." And I did a little research into that poem, and I found out that the poem is based off of 2 real characters, I think from the 12th century, something like that, a long time ago. And it was the story of a French philosopher named Peter Abelard, who had a secret affair with a student whose name was Heloise.
Almost like what was going on in the movie.
He wanted to save his reputation, so he had her take a vow of silence by sending her to join a convent, basically. And her family interpreted this as him trying to get rid of her, so they castrated him.
Ooh.
He became a monk.
Oh.
And
why didn't they just kill him?
You know, I couldn't tell you.
They went for the worst one.
Yeah, they weren't really happy about that.
Oh.
But then, you know, he becomes a monk at some abbey in Paris. And over the years, like, Heloise and them start writing love letters to each other. Again, after all of this has happened, after the vow of silence, she's sending him love letters, and then she realizes that she ends up becoming very bitter with him and decides to live her life without him. And that's basically the exact story of what's happening between
Mary and Doc.
Mary and Doc.
Howard. His first name's Howard.
Let's just call him Howard.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Call someone by their first name, why not?
Yeah, and it's exactly what's happening, you know, with the vow of silence. That's him having her erase those memories, and then time passes and she falls back in love with him. Mm-hmm. And then in the end, ultimately decides, fuck you, I'm out, I'm on my own. Like, I don't need you. Yeah. And I'm also going to undo everything you've done.
Yeah, which is kind of like castrating him in a way.
Yeah.
Also, you get the sense that his wife is actually going to leave him this time.
Yeah.
That she's not just annoyed with an affair.
Oh yeah, no, she's gone.
She's gone. I feel like his wife is like, if the cast of a movie, if every actor is like an ingredient in a recipe, the character of Howard's wife is like a spice that you just need a little bit of, because she is only in one scene, really. There's a scene where he gets the call to come in the middle of the night, and she doesn't have a line, but just the look on her face as she's like, what the fuck is this now?
Yeah.
And then just the scene of her crashing the party and being mad at him and revealing the secret. Like, that's it. That's all she's in the movie. But she explodes that whole plot. She makes the whole thing happen.
Yeah.
You know, it's like she's just that little bit that had a huge impact on the movie. Which I don't know, I really appreciate when movies are efficient. When things are well-paced and well-packed together, and like the wife didn't need to be in the movie anymore. I feel like sometimes directors or screenwriters or editors, whoever the fuck is in charge of these stupid decisions, gets tempted to be like, oh, well, this character plays an important role, so they deserve a lot of screen time, and then they just kind of like spin their wheels on that character for no reason. A lesser filmmaker would have had a scene of like his wife with the kids at home that day, showing that she's like a good wife or whatever. You didn't need that, so it wasn't there. Like, this movie just it gets to the point, really, like, there's a lot going on in this hour and 45-minute movie. The sparing use of her character was a great example of that kind of efficiency.
Well, it's a good example of sometimes less is more.
Yeah, I guess that's what I'm saying, but you said it way more efficiently.
Yeah, I'm trying to save some time.
Yeah, you're good. So, one of the things, just going back to, like, what we were saying a little bit ago about how there's a lot of details, important details thrown into this movie. One that I really loved that you notice by the end of the scene, but it's happening throughout the scene, is it's near the end of the movie. Joel has gone to Clementine's bookstore where she works to, like, kind of convince her to date him. And if you notice, starting really early in that scene, the titles and the covers and the words on the binding of the books are fading to white. And, like, by the end of it, every book in the store is white, but they do it really slowly and subtly, so you don't notice it until it's much later in the scene. And that was the kind of thing that, like, they weren't flashy about it. They weren't drawing your attention to these really well done details. They were just happening. And everything adds to this ambiance, this effect that the movie has.
Yeah, it's a good example of a director that cares about his project.
There was a lot of care in this movie. You got the sense that everyone gave a shit.
Yeah, you look at a movie like Transformer or a director like Michael Bay, and if you think you're going to see those subtle little visual or whatever things in his movie, you're not. You're going to see explosions and racist robots in disguise.
I can't believe this is...
We're not going to get into Transformers 2. We could. We're not going to.
Oh, Transformers 2 is like one of the worst movies I've ever seen in my whole life.
But it's
also, though, here's the thing with the Transformers movies. Like, granted, we can hate on Michael Bay all day, and it's probably deserved. But also, like, those movies... No offense, because I liked the first one. Those movies are made for dumb people. Everything important is going to be telegraphed. It's going to be up high in your face. Like, there's not going to be anything that you have to pay attention to because those movies are just made for dumb people.
They're designed to be able to switch your brain off.
Yeah, which I'm
is
fine.
fine.
I like those movies too. I like being dumb sometimes, but those movies also have to be catered to the people who are only dumb.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's no intellectualizing a lot of the big Hollywood movies, and this one just...
Yeah. There's one interpretation, and it's the face value of the movie. It's not going to have any heavy symbolism or anything that's going to make you scratch your head or anything that's going to keep you up at night.
Right, whereas this movie, Eternal Sunshine, has been keeping me up at night for 15 years.
Yeah, which is a good sign. It's a good movie.
Yeah. I honestly, I'll give it away right now. If I can't, like, give a definitive ranking, but, like, if you made me pick top 10 favorite movies of all time, like, this is in it. I absolutely adore this movie.
Yeah, it was alright. We are forgetting two other characters.
I know, we haven't talked about the goofballs yet.
We haven't talked about the goofballs. So the assistant, actually they're both assistants.
Technicians, I think.
Technicians that work for this company that were in the house while Joel is getting his memory of Clementine erased. And it is baby boy, Patrick.
No, it's Patrick, baby boy.
So you remember that a lot better than I do. I do remember the doctor in his memory that was really just his own subconscious talking to him.
Substitutes in what she calls him in the bookstore earlier. Yeah.
Played by famous Elijah Wood.
Frodo?
This is post Lord of the Rings.
Oh yeah, it's like probably his first big role after Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, I don't know his filmography, but I mean, this is a pretty big movie. And someone who I had never recognized this actor until
The Hulk.
Yeah. But Mark Ruffalo plays Stan, who is a kind of love interest for Mary.
I would say Mary is a love interest for Stan, but not necessarily the other way around.
Yeah.
Although they're clearly somehow involved. I mean,
there's something.
Yeah, I mean, they get high and dance around in their underwear and...
Presumably have sex.
Yeah, I think you're meant to assume that.
They're naked. They're naked in a chair together under blankets.
Oh yeah. No, you're not. You're right. They're not. You don't assume they had sex. You definitely know they did. They just don't show it.
Her feelings are complicated.
Yes.
His are not. He just likes them. But Elijah Wood, he plays like creepy little douchebag so well.
Yeah.
And he nails it in this movie.
You hate him in this movie.
He's so cringy in this movie.
Yeah.
His character is.
Something I noticed was that not long before the credits roll, which is, I wrote it down, it's 18 minutes into the movie. So about 15 minutes in, Joel is taking Clem to her place, and she's just going to run upstairs to get some stuff, and they're going to, she's going to come over to his place. When Elijah Wood first enters the film to just come and knock on Joel's car window, and he's like, "What are you doing here?" And Joel's like, "I don't know what you're talking about." As Elijah Wood approaches the car, there's sirens. There's like the sound of sirens in the background. Nothing in a movie is on accident, or it shouldn't be, at least. And that was a very subtle conditioning for you, that like you haven't seen this character yet, but like not everything's right with him. And like it's creepy enough to just have a stranger come knock on your car window and ask you, "What are you doing here?" But the fact that they had the sirens in the background for just that little moment, it's just another like very cool, subtle, but important detail that the filmmakers put in.
See, I thought the dead giveaway was the soul patch that connected to the very small chin beard. That was a siren to me.
Okay, yeah, that too.
I was alarmed when I saw that.
With the very close cut shaved head look.
Yeah. Oh, Elijah.
Also, he seems like a fantastic human being in real life, but he just looks like a creepy little fucker.
He does. I mean, he's kind of straight away. He's gotten roles that aren't, well, like most of his roles, he's not a creepy little guy. And it's great for him that he wasn't typecast as the little creep.
Yeah.
Because he pulls it off so well.
Oh my god.
But he's shown off his acting chops. I like him. But he certainly goes to show how good of an actor he is. Because I like him. He seems really good. But his character in this.
You just want to beat him over the head with a brick.
Well, he was like... He also reminded me of like that weird kid in school. Where he's like bragging about like... "Oh yeah, I went camping with my cousin. I fucking grabbed her boobs." You know, like that weird, like, ugh.
I never knew that kid, but you ran in some weird circles.
I knew that. I've not. You didn't have to be in their circle for them to want to like proclaim that to people, because in their twisted little brains, they think that that's going to get them adoration and pull them out of the hole of being a little weirdo, but really it just sinks them further in.
I guess I didn't go to cousin boob grabber school.
I've pulled that example.
No, it's fine. It's fine that you did. I mean, no judgment. I just didn't go to that school. I mean, when he steals her underwear, who the fuck does that?
Yeah.
Let me moment talking straight to the listeners out there.
Yeah.
If you've ever stolen an article of clothing from someone else that's not like a sweatshirt when it's cold, like you steal their underwear or even their socks. Don't steal their pants. Even a fucking shirt's unacceptable, but you steal the underwear, man, you need to re-examine what's going on in your life and change something major. All right, back to the movie.
Well, let me just say something to the audience real quick. If you do steal underwear,
grab your cousin's boob while you do it. Okay, back to the movie.
Yes.
I thought that something that they did really well was they didn't just make Joel this like victim hero like his kind of character often is in a romance drama type of movie. He was more so, I would say, at fault for the end of the relationship, and only really like the moment that as I was watching it this time through, when I realized that Joel realized he had to try to stop this erasure, because that's a big part of the movie. It's like a good third or so of the running time is like just him trying to hide her in his other memories, and that's like really that's the emotional core. Like that's the meat of the movie, even though it's not the majority of the running time, is him trying to hide her, trying to stop the process. He realizes that he wants to do that when he overhears Patrick call Clementine Tangerine in like the real world, and it's jealousy that sparks him trying to stop this process, and it comes across as romantic, but you realize like that was kickstarted because he just heard someone else, and he's like, someone's trying to steal my girl, man. He's calling you Tangerine. He stole your underwear. We gotta stop this. We gotta stop, but it's not we gotta stop this, it's we gotta stop that guy.
I think it's It's that, and also he was starting to get to the point where the memories were getting good. When you decide to erase a human being's existence from your memory, you're not thinking about the good times. You're thinking about how you feel in that moment. You're thinking about what had happened recently to drive you to want to do this. So yeah, overhearing Patrick Baby Boy talking about stealing panties and calling her Tangerine. And he does a lot more than that. He ends up stealing basically all of the memories from Joel to use on Clementine.
And it literally drives her crazy and she doesn't know why.
Yeah.
Which is, when you think about it, it's not just creepy, it's not just weird, like, it's cruel.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, he's a bad person.
Yeah, no, he's definitely, he's not a hero.
He is a villain of the movie. I would say there's two villains in the movie, and he is one of them, and the more palpable one for most of the movie.
Well, yeah, the other one being Howard.
Yes.
But I don't remember exactly what memory he was on when he decided to start trying to hide her in his deep, long forgotten memory, or not forgotten, obviously, because they're memories, but in his memories. But I'm pretty sure that was during a memory that he looked back fondly on. Because there was a time when they were doing something.
They were under the blanket. And she was talking about how, she was asking him if she was pretty, and she talked about how when she was a kid she thought she was ugly, and she got mad at her doll for being ugly, and he just, he kisses her and he tells her she's pretty, and it's like, if you've ever loved somebody, that's a moment that you've had with them.
That was the memory that he was begging to keep.
Yeah, and that was something that pretty much everybody could relate to. On both sides, too, because you relate to her because everybody has insecurities about things. And, like, she's Kate Winslet. She's clearly gorgeous. And her character is treated as extremely attractive, right? Like, there's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
But everyone has insecurities about things they shouldn't. Oh, I'm ugly. Are you sure I'm pretty? Everyone goes through that. And then everyone goes through the thing on the other side, too, where you just, like, you wish you could make someone else feel better. And you can't, and you do your best, and it's this, like, just this beautiful sadness and love wrapped together in this putty.
Yeah.
And
the fact that they were under the blankets made it all the more intimate.
Yeah.
And close and special.
And safe.
And safe, yeah.
And that was a moment that was just outside of just the fact that it served the plot of the movie. It's just so gorgeous. It's such a human moment.
Yeah.
And that was the scene right after he overheard Patrick calling her Tangerine, and then he gets that memory thrown in his face, and he's just like, no, we gotta stop this shit right now.
Yeah. I wonder if that maybe is the same memory when Clementine was going through the procedure, that maybe she decided to try and hold on to some part of Joel, which is why she ended up going to Montauk.
Could be.
Because...
I mean, it's where they met. I think that's...
It is, but in the final memory erasure... Mm-hmm. When she says, come back to the house, and he says, I have no memory of that. She said, let's make a new one or something. She whispers in his ear, meet me in Montauk.
Right.
And that was the last thing that got erased. And then he has this sudden, like, urge to go to Montauk for no reason. He calls out sick from work. He, like, literally, like, runs off the train that he was on to go to work.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I thought it was hilarious that he calls in sick to work from a payphone with the wind blowing super hard. It's like he's just not good at being spontaneous, even though he was, like, something was pulling him there, right? There's this idea of fate pulling him there. And he's like, oh, I'll be spontaneous and call out from work. No one calls in sick to work from a windy payphone. That's just... stupid.
Oh, you got the fan going in your house? What's going on, man?
Right? Like, sounds like you're walking down the street. Sounds like the wind's blowing.
Sounds like you're at a payphone at a train station.
I mean, we all know you can hear the wind on the other end of a phone.
Yeah. No, it was pretty silly, but yeah, that was probably intentional too.
Oh, I think so. I think it was
to show just how awkward. I mean, he was an awkward dude.
He was, and he wished he was more adventurous.
Yeah.
And then when he tried to be adventurous, he was bad at it. Like calling in sick to work from a windy payphone. That was I laughed out loud watching that.
You LOL'd?
Lol.
You did an LMFAO?
I laughed from the moron laughing. LMF. What does that stand for?
Can you stop? We're doing a podcast. I need you to be serious.
Whoa, wait. Oh, LMFAO. I'm sorry.
It's that band.
I will take it seriously. Yeah, they're a musical duo.
They're a musical,
I remember now. No, I wasn't listening to them as I was watching it. I was just focusing on the movie.
It really enhances the experience. Speaking of music enhancing the experience, the music of this was fantastic.
Yeah. The music, not necessarily in the terms of like being music I'd want to listen to again, but in terms of completely perfectly enhancing the scenes.
Oh, yeah.
It's funny because we were just talking in the last episode about how I usually don't really notice the music. I just kind of let it lie in my mental background of the scene. I noticed the music a lot in this movie in a good way.
Yeah, let's give credit where credit's due. John Bryan did the music for this. He did a really good job, and to give you an idea of what else he's done, he composed the music for the newest Christopher Robin, which we haven't seen yet.
No, we haven't seen any movies since the last episode we did.
We've been bad.
Well, I've been...
busy.
Life is busy.
He also composed the music for Lady Bird, another movie that haven't seen but really want to. And you won't believe this. He did music for The Other Guys, namely the song Pimps Don't Cry.
Wait, the movie The Other Guys? The Mark Wahlberg, Will Ferrell cop comedy?
Yes, he did the song Pimps Don't Cry for that movie.
I love that you research the shit like this because that's...
I was
new
really,
to me, and that's hilarious.
I was really happy when I discovered that.
If any of you listening haven't seen The Other Guys, if you watch a trailer for it, it looks like any other stupid, dumb comedy with Will Ferrell and Mark Wahlberg. I love both of them, but they're not exactly...
The movie's a gem.
That movie is so funny.
It's great. But yeah, some music, well done. Good job.
Yeah, it really was.
Brion.
I love the scene on the train, again, in the intro portion where they're meeting for the second time and don't know it. And they're on the train, and, she's talking about Agent Orange, and Joel doesn't know the song Oh My Darling Clementine, which everyone knows. Clearly, that's the first time that something's truly weird. Their conversation is just fucking weird. And the music in that scene was it's got I don't know if it's a bassoon or an oboe with the strings behind it. It's just it almost reminded me of Alice in Wonderland. Even if it wasn't music from that movie, it just made me feel like we were going down the rabbit hole. The music really painted that picture.
Yeah, that was an oboe.
Was it an oboe?
Yeah.
You have no idea.
I have no clue.
Shut the fuck up. That was one time that I really felt like the music made the scene just palpably better, but it really did throughout.
Yeah.
It really fit.
Oftentimes we talk about non-composed songs from artists that are used in film. Mm-hmm. We've mentioned it a few times in our reviews.
Soundtrack versus score.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's only one song that's used, and it's used 3 times, I want to say. And it's Everybody's Got to Learn Sometime.
Everybody has got to learn sometime.
No, everybody, apostrophe S. Everybody's Got to Learn Sometime by musical artist Beck.
Oh,
I like Beck.
I didn't know it was Beck.
It was a song that played during the breakup or when he's in the car.
It was during the credits in the car, I know.
It was in the credits during the car.
And it played over the closing credits. What was the other time?
It was I don't remember.
Ah, shit.
That was the only song used. Though there was a song mentioned but not used. And it's when they're laying on the ice the first time, which is also the last time.
Which is the last time.
But we're not going to get into that. Yeah. Let's just go chronologically from when the movie starts. When she asks him if he could tell her some constellations, and he says, "Oh, that's Osidius the Emphatic," which is actually a song by a group called the Pomegranates. And I listened to it, and it's pretty good.
Wait, was that song written before or after the movie came out?
It was written before the movie came out.
Okay.
So when she asked him to show her a constellation, he just said, "Oh, I know about a song called Osidius the Emphatic," and the song is about constellations, and I think it's a made-up constellation.
I never knew that, and that's the kind of thing I love about this movie.
That was him being cute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in real life, if you were him and you were trying to be cute that way, you probably wouldn't say, "Oh, it's just a song." So neither did the character. We just need to know that. And I've seen this movie dozens of times, and I've never known that. I never thought to look it up. I thought he was just talking nonsense.
Yeah, well, I looked it up thinking, oh, is that a real constellation? It's like, here's some song lyrics and here's a music video. Oh, okay, it's a song. Cool. Also, since I'm mentioning that scene on the ice, that scene happened somewhat by accident, meaning they didn't know if the weather was going to permit them to shoot on that ice. And it just so happened that a couple days before shooting, it started getting colder. And so they were able to shoot on it. And that giant crack in the ice, which is now iconic. If you Google Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, you're going to see a picture of the two laying on the ice, which takes up like a quarter of the screen.
That's the
with
cover
the giant
of the
crack.
box.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That crack in the ice also just happened to be there.
I love happy accidents like that.
Yeah.
It would have sucked if they couldn't have filmed that scene, because I feel like that was important to her character, in that it showed very early on that she didn't give a shit about danger and risks, and she was impulsive and she would just do things, and he's not that way.
Yeah.
But he goes along with it, like in that intro scene, which is now the second time they've met. Like, he goes along with it. I mean, he's a little reluctant, but he gets into it. Like, you almost feel like he has somehow matured, even though he forgot their relationship. Watching that scene after having seen the movie before, and when I say the intro scene, I mean the first 18 minutes of the movie, it's really interesting because you feel like you're seeing him like a shell of himself, because he's hollowed out this really important part of him. Like, the part of his life that made him grow is now missing, but he did still grow. He didn't lose the personality changes, he just lost the memories. So it was very confusing for him, and he feels really hollow. But he's definitely not the same, like, super shy, cowardly person that he was before they ever met.
Well, there's a scene in particular that really shows, I think, kind of his drive for being a little bit more outgoing and less shy. And when you first see him, when Joel first sees Clementine, there's a little bit of a self-dialogue. He's thinking to himself, like, why do I fall in love with any girl that gives me any attention? And he talks about how awkward he is,
right?
How quiet, and then, you know, they meet, they talk. He goes up to her apartment, they have a drink. She gives him her phone number, and then he goes home. And Jim Carrey, who is very hit or miss for me. I mean, he's iconic. He, you know, in the roles he does well. He nailed the energy that you have when something breaks the monotony of like, if you're in I wouldn't say a rut.
No, I think he felt like he was in a rut. His journal is just empty. Little does he know it's because he tore everything out the day before. But
yeah.
like, no, I think rut is the right word for how he felt.
Given that a big chunk of his memories had just been eradicated, you know, the daily grind. He even says, I'm a boring person. I don't do anything. I go to work. I go home. He really encapsulates the feeling of when something happens in your life after you've been going through a rut and dealing with the monotony of the day-to-day. When he gets home that night and he's kind of like pacing around the house. He's
like,
just
do I call her right now?
It's like being a schoolboy.
Yeah.
Right? And having that crush that like passed you a note where she checked the yes box on, do you want to go to the dance with me? And then you just like all amped up. The adrenaline is rushing from this like very, you know, not a huge interaction you had with another human being, let alone someone that you're attracted to. And then he calls her up, and then it's like...
And the way he's talking on the phone in that first phone call is not like he normally talks.
Yeah.
And the way that he sounds more excited, but he's also trying to sound reserved, and so he sounds somehow like quieter and calmer, but also more excited at the same time, which is exactly what you sound like when you're in that mode. That's a good point. Yeah. He nailed that scene. He
absolutely nailed that scene. And it was such a small scene, but it goes to what you were saying on how he went out on the ice despite him being like that character. Is, you know, it's just it's interesting. He did a good job in this role. I liked him a lot.
Yeah. I kind of wanted to talk more about the meat of the movie. The scenes of him like trying to hide her. There's so much to unpack there.
Yeah.
that we've kind of like not gotten to it yet, because that's a whole animal. That, whatever it is, 30-40 minutes of the movie when he's trying to hide her in like his childhood memories and stuff, like that is the portion of the movie that always really dug deep into my soul. It does every time I watch it. The way that it shows you how intricately tied your memories and your experiences are to who you become as a person, and how you still interact with those memories. Like the scene when he's really trying to bury her deep, so he goes into his childhood, and it's the kids trying to bully him into killing the bird with the hammer, and he does it.
Kids are cruel.
Kids are fucked up. And then like adult him, who's now back in the memory, is just like, you don't scare me, I can stand up to you. And then but like the memory is so strong that the kid just grabs his arm, twists it behind his back, and like beats him.
Yeah.
It's like, even though those kids are 6 and he's an adult, the memories are just so powerful that the memory can defeat you. I thought that was really effective in showing how bad of an idea it is to delete memories.
Yeah.
Because they inform everything that you are. And trying to get rid of it like leaves you with this like empty husk of a person, like he seems like he is at the beginning of the film. And there's also just so many great little details in all of those scenes. Like when they're running around on the ice, when he's first kind of panicking and trying to hide her, and then like it'll transition into another Clementine memory, and then it gets deleted, and then it cuts back to them being on the ice. Like, that was a really fun bit of editing.
Yeah.
I don't know, I could talk all day about that whole portion of the movie. That's the part that I love more than anything else.
Well, what I find interesting is all the interactions he has inside of his own mind and his memories. I mean, it's pretty much all his subconscious.
Yeah, like the Clementine in there is not Clementine.
He's struggling with himself and and trying to. That is the equivalent of trying to problem solve in your brain how to resolve something or fix something. Is you're not talking to someone about it. You're thinking and having this kind of the dialogue within yourself. This kind of makes that a little bit more literal because he is talking to, well, he has these interactions with, it's namely Clementine, sometimes the doctor.
Well, the doctor is there to explicitly let the audience know that that's what's happening, because he's the one who says like, oh yeah, I'm you, you're just talking to you, it's not really like, the doctor is able to say that, like from just a filmmaking perspective, you're able to make the doctor say that because you don't want to make Clementine say that in his memories, because you want her to seem real.
It's
but you
clever.
you do need to know that she's not.
It's clever exposition.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I kept wondering through all of those scenes how much of what the mental Clementine character is saying was how she would have actually reacted.
How he thinks that she would have reacted, or what
how he wants her to have reacted. How much of that was how much of that was like his idealized version of her? Because it was still her. She was still snarky and more, whimsical and wistful and all that, but was that his ideal version of her, kind of projecting what he wishes she was?
I think,
or was that really how he thought she would be, and that was an accurate representation of her personality?
I think that was an accurate representation of her personality. I mean, I think about like the scene where he's trying to hide her in a memory where he's 4 years old and hiding under the table, and she's like, oh my god, like, do you look at this dress I'm wearing? Like, oh my god, I can't believe that the decor in this kitchen is fucking amazing, and oh my god, would you like a drink? Yes, I'd love a vodka.
Right.
That's clearly not what he wants her to be. That is clearly what he sees her as.
Yeah.
I mean,
I thought of it more so as like, not necessarily that the memory version of Clementine was what he wishes that she was, because maybe he wishes that she didn't drink, right? But the mental image of her still wants to drink.
Yeah.
It was more that it was the things that he knew were immutable about her were still included, but it was the idealized version of the real her. Like, it wasn't fully imaginary. It wasn't like all of a sudden she was some weird pixie dream girl version, but like, I don't know how much the real Clementine was coming through in those scenes, because the real one we only see post erasure.
Yeah.
Everything and it's like the weird like breaking down into sobs and panic attacks during this like manipulative relationship with Patrick thing, and then like
You said his name wrong.
Patrick, baby boy, has a really negative effect on her, and you see that all of the past Clementine is only in his head. There's no flashbacks per se, like from a impartial narrator.
Yeah, from a storytelling perspective.
Right, and that's just something that I really like thinking about with this movie is how much of your mental image of other people is made up. How much of it is just what you project yourself into them, or how much you idealize them, or demonize. I mean, the opposite can be true too. You can demonize them in your head, although that's not shown here. Like, his memories of her become more and more ideal as the movie goes on, as it goes further into the past.
As they get closer to the honeymoon phase of a relationship.
True, so maybe it was just the natural, like, it started off being a really fun, good relationship and then deteriorated, so the natural progression in reverse is for it to get better.
Well, it makes sense considering, like, in one of the memories, like, somewhat in the middle of the film, Clementine, in his memory, is suggesting to him, why don't you wake yourself up to stop this procedure? And he's kind of condescending and,
right.
Oh, let me just lay down and open my eyes. And
will that make you happy?
She was certainly not the ideal perception of Clementine at that moment.
I don't know,
because there was a bit of banter between them.
There was, but that was...
And a little cynicism.
That was kind of... I mean, that was kind of the banter you have in a relationship when you disagree. Like, people don't always agree. For one thing, she was right.
Yeah.
And I love that just portrayal of a moment when you're so sarcastic and shitty to your significant other to a suggestion they have, and you're like, oh, okay, I'll try it. And then it turns out they were right, and you're just like, oh, shit. But, like, she didn't get upset at how sarcastic he was being, and she didn't really gloat that she was right. Which, both of those things would have happened in real life. I really feel like that was an idealized version of her.
You think so?
I do. And it's okay if you feel different.
In an idealized version of her...
Because that version of her that was saying you should try to wake up, that was just him telling himself to try to wake up.
But I'm thinking like the banter back and forth, that he wouldn't have had included that, or if it was the most idealized version of her. But then what I'm saying is that, like, that's fairly early in when the relationship was still good and natural. It was a progression, and that at the end she becomes something that maybe she wasn't because the memories are sweeter.
Yeah. I think it's a blend as it goes further back, as the movie progresses, of the relationship actually being better early on, and just his internal perception of her being better. Like, since he wants to hold on to the good parts, he kind of inserts more goodness into his memories of her.
Well, not only is he inserting more good memories of her, but at the same time he's losing bad memories of her.
Right. He legitimately does not have the bad memories as the movie progresses. That's true.
That's one thing I didn't even think about until just now.
I kind of didn't either, but that's a huge deal.
Wow. I guess we need to watch this movie again, and we're going to do part 2 next week. Thank you for joining us.
It'll be called Part 2, when Johnny and Ryan actually understand the movie, even though they've seen it a bunch of fucking times before.
That's right. So this has been Johnny.
And then this is Ryan.
Signing off. Have a good one.
Yeah, bye. Oh, no.
Oh, part 2 is here now.
Part 2.
Oh, we made it.
So we've reconsidered a lot of our opinions about the movie, and we find that we are mostly still right.
Yeah, we're 100% correct in everything we do.
So I want to go back to something we talked about during part 1, which was the
How
scene,
long ago was that?
Minutes.
Wow.
When the scene when he's 4 and it's like she's the babysitter and he's under the table and he's like, wants a cookie. That's probably the moment that I went for, like, the first time I saw the movie. That was the scene that made me go from like the 99.9% sure to the 100% sure that I loved the movie. It's one of my favorite scenes. It's so bizarre. It just makes you so uneasy because, like, they're in a romantic and sexual relationship. You know this, but he's a 4-year-old and she's his babysitter and she's loving it and he's acting like a kid, but the reason he's acting like a kid is because he's trapped in this memory that he has gone to on purpose to save the memory of his lover. The whole thing is just fucking weird.
Yes.
And I love it. It's also the only scene in the entire movie that I have something to complain about.
Is it because you see Kate Winslet's underwear?
Ooh, no. Actually.
Oh no.
I'm going to paint her like one of my French girls.
That was the best scene in the movie.
No.
No.
Seriously, I've like I said, I've seen the movie dozens of times. The only thing that I can legitimately complain about is that the forced perspective to make him look small under the table was not very well done.
It was practical though. It was
practical, but that was the only time that they ignored a very important detail. When the camera is more above him, like the camera's under the table, you can clearly see how big the bricks on the floor are and how many there are. And then when it goes to the shot from further away, you can clearly see that there's way more bricks on the floor. Like the brickwork of the floor, you can tell that it's a different set.
Lazy.
All I'm saying is when I am taken out of my viewing experience and am made aware that I'm looking at a set, and then the camera cuts to the different angle and it's very clear it's a different set, it took me out of the movie, and the whole rest of the movie is, magical.
Well, what I would suggest doing is to go on Twitter, listeners, and to go to Michel Gondry's.
Michel Gondry?
Michel Gondry, the French bastard. Oh, I'm not racist.
That's technically just countryist, I think.
Okay, fair enough. The French bastard, and tweet at him.
What the fuck's up with the bricks on the floor in the kitchen scene when he's 4 years old in Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind that you filmed 15 years ago?
Let him know.
Word for word, tweet that.
Let him know that he fucked up big time.
And then he's just gonna
He almost had a perfect movie.
No, for real though, like I'd still give this movie a 10 out of 10 if I had to do some sort of score, but that's the only imperfection, and I hate it even more because it's the only one. Like there's plenty of movies that have like flaws here and there, and of course every movie does, even the greatest ones, you can nitpick something, and I hate that I have that nitpick. I wish I didn't notice it, because it's my only one. And that's all I have to say about that. It's still one of my favorite scenes in cinema of all time.
I think what that says is that this is a really good movie, and just go see it. Actually, why would I say go see it? I'm assuming that if you're listening still at this point in the podcast, that hopefully you have seen it already.
If you haven't, if you're this far and you've never seen the movie, I think you're a psychopath.
Yeah, you're not a normal human
You're
being.
not normal. I just want you to know you're not fucking normal. So, okay, let's kind of jump. Let's jump topics. Let's go. Let's jump topics and talk about some of what worked and what was good and what we liked and what we were interested in terms of the editing and the special effects and more technical aspects of the movie. So I know you... Oh, Johnny, you're raising your hand. Yes, Johnny, what do you have to say about that?
I have something to say about that. I thought the cinematography was great, and I don't think it would have worked as well if it was a steady cam on a tripod, whatever. I think that really encapsulates the chaos of the situation and the trauma of having brain damage and losing a memory of someone that you've shared your life with for 2 years. I thought it was great that in the dark scenes there seemed to be a flashlight, just a flashlight, shining on whatever character was central to that memory. Mm-hmm.
That's how you remember things, though. You remember very little of the background and side details.
Oh, yeah. It draws your focus on what's important. And also, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. The spotlight is on them. Are you seeing a connection here? Because I'm not.
Yeah, I think that's a little too hashtag deep.
It is. One thing I would like to mention, though. Any of the scenes where Joel is with the doctor... and he goes to the memory of himself with the doctor. So Joel is there twice. There's one single shot done for those. It's one continuous shot. And I was wondering about that. Because it would go to Joel wearing the beanie and street clothes, to Joel wearing the gown that they gave him for the doctor's visit. And it turns out what was happening is that when the camera would move
Like off of Jim Carrey?
Off of Jim Carrey, he would be either putting on additional clothes or taking off clothes to be in the scene as both characters.
So they did it with no trick photography or weird cuts or anything? He just literally physically changed clothes back and forth to film the scene in one take?
Yes.
That is such a perfect example of why this movie is great.
Yeah. Well, also, like I said, I have my qualms with Jim Carrey. Mostly, I watched his documentary on Netflix about his filming of Man on the Moon, and I thought it portrayed him as the most pretentious asshole on the planet, which really hurt my perception of him.
Yeah,
as an actor,
I don't even want to watch that because
you shouldn't, because it'll taint your perspective. I mean, some people would see him as a visionary. I see him, after watching that, as an egotistical, eccentric asshole. But he does have the chops.
Yeah.
He has the capability to be a very good actor, and he's got the drive as well. I'll give him that. And, I mean, he was told in this movie not to improvise at all, whereas the other actors were encouraged to improvise. And I think that was kind of to keep his Jim Carrey-ness away from the character of Joel.
They didn't want like a Ace Ventura, the masked liar version of him to come out.
Yeah, because when Jim Carrey improvs, it's very Jim Carrey.
Yeah, it's unique in a way that can take you out of a character if you're trying to be serious.
He's a little bit over the top when he does his improv, and this kind of grounded him. And when he was, stuck to the role he was given and stuck to the character, he did it well. So props to him. He did a good job in this movie.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I thought everyone did a really good job in this movie. There were a lot of just acting moments and scenes that, without making you, because again, I never want to be taken out of a scene. Mm-hmm. Like I was talking about with the set piece in the kitchen. There's a lot of moments where, in movies, when actors are like trying to act so good that you're like, yeah, you are, but you almost are focusing on the acting itself, and it takes you out of the character, and that doesn't happen in this movie.
Oh, you mean they didn't try to Daniel Day-Lewis it?
Or, like, Sean Penn is guilty of it sometimes, when he's just like, look at how much I can act, and you're like, yeah. And in this, like, just the scenes of Mark Ruffalo and Kristen Durst hanging out in the apartment and, like, getting stoned, and, like, she's gushing over Howard while he's gushing over the Clash, and they're, like, not really on the same page. You remember that scene where they're lying on the bed?
No, I do, but you also just blew my mind a little bit. I guess that Beck song was not the only non-composed song.
Yeah, you're right, because they were dancing into the Clash, right?
Yeah, they were dancing into the Clash.
Well, I just fucked you up.
Damn, you dropped some knowledge on my dome, dude.
So, like, the scene where they're hanging out and smoking weed and having sex and stuff, and Mary seems so cool. Like, she's a cool chick in those scenes, man. Like, I want to hang out with her. And then as soon as, like, shit goes wrong with the memory erasure, and Stan's like, we're gonna call Howard, and
no,
they call
she was the one that suggested it. She's like, you should call Howard.
Oh yeah, because then he says my favorite line in the movie. Just the way that he delivers it when he says, "No way, no sir." And just like the way he says it with that like stoned panic is just, I crack up every time that line.
Classic Bruce Banner.
No way, no sir. Because he's high and drunk as shit, and he's supposed to be doing his job. Like, no way am I calling in the boss, man. Scoob, we're gonna figure this out on our own.
Suddenly he's Shaggy, trying to solve the mystery himself.
So she's been really just like, when she first walks in and she just ignores Patrick, and she's just like, oh, hi. She's very blasé, and then she's very cool, and she's very fun, and that whole sequence of scenes in the apartment, like, she is someone you're like, I want to hang out with her. And then as soon as it's confirmed that Howard is going to show up, her acting and her demeanor switches, and she becomes like the nervous little girl again. And it's very well executed for her character, that like she's acting stoned both times, but one is the like, I'm fun, I'm cool, I'm high, we're having a good time, and the next is like my crush is coming and I'm paranoid and stoned, and she's just like, oh my god, I can't let him see me like this. And I love her as an actress. I think she nails pretty much everything I've ever seen her do. And like Mark Ruffalo is really good in the same way. The fact that Kate Winslet is basically playing two characters. She's playing an actual fucked up girl, and she's playing this mental projection of the memory of that same woman, and she's able to so effectively be different, whether she's on one part of the story or the other. Like, you know, Jim Carrey's more consistent, but that's impressive for him that he was able to maintain that consistency when he's used to doing things like The Mask.
Yeah.
And then Tom Wilkinson, Elijah Wood are both actors that you just can't really argue with their talent.
Well, in all honesty, I feel like the strongest characters in the movie are obviously Jim Carrey and Kate Winslet. They both do an excellent job, but I think on that same tier would be Kristen Durst.
Yeah,
her character is fantastic.
And like the range that she goes through from like the kind of, you know, the first time you see her in the beginning of the movie when they're in the doctor's office, she's almost pandering to Howard.
Yeah.
Where like Joel asks Howard a question and then he answers it and then she like repeats the answer in that like supplicant kind of way. And then it goes to like, oh, you see her after hours and she's down to fucking party. And then you see her in her like nervous crush mode. You know, when she's flirting with him, reciting her quotes to him, and she says Pope Alexander instead of Alexander Pope, and just like gets all embarrassed, and it's like clearly she recognizes the kind of maturity and power imbalance that's there. And then you go to the scene at the end when she's loading stuff into her car and she's pissed and she's just like totally cold. Like the range of emotions and modes that character goes through over essentially like a 24-hour, 48-hour period.
It's the same kind of growth that you'd see over a period of like 5 years or 10 years.
Right.
Because she was at that point, let's assume she was in her early 20s.
She was.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Kristen Durst was, and I think the character is supposed to be as well.
10 years after Interview with a Vampire.
When she was like 12.
Yeah, so she's like 22.
Yeah. So another kind of more technical aspect of the movie that I really liked, and that, not that just that I liked it, like, okay, we like a lot of things, right? This movie's not just something I like, it's something that's great.
Did you love it, or did you like it?
I loved it.
All right, tell me what it is, and I'll tell you how I feel about it.
It's Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
The example of what you loved about it.
Oh, everything in the movie, but the particular aspect I'm talking about is in the dream scenes, which is, you know, a huge part of the movie. There's all these bizarre transitions from one set to another, and there's transitions like he goes from the bookstore into his friend's living room. He goes from his bedroom into the rain, and there's all these kind of things. They built combined sets that they could just walk between. It would have been probably much simpler to just build one set per location and then just kind of like put blue screens on the edges and then have characters walk and then you digitally, you know, combine the two. They didn't do any of that kind of thing.
Yeah, in 2004 they would have had the means to be able to do that fairly easy.
Yeah, absolutely.
To make those transitions completely digital and have separate sets.
But they totally didn't. Every time there's this weird dreamlike bizarro transition from one place to another that doesn't belong, they just built a bizarro dream dual set. That's the kind of thing that's like going the extra mile to make it go from like, yeah, they could have done something with 10% the effort for 90% of the effect. And they went that extra 90% effort to just make the scene 10% better. And that, you know, there was a few computer effects, like the scene where he's driving beside her and she's walking away after they break up and, you know, the car falls out of the sky and stuff.
Yeah. I think even the car falling out of the sky, they probably got a junker car for that and actually dropped it.
You think? That part didn't look real.
I didn't really focus that hard on it, but I felt like that maybe it could have.
I feel like they must have had some computer touch-ups here and there.
They did when, like, at the very end, when the house was falling apart, when the final memory was being deleted.
Yeah.
That was digitally done.
Definitely. I like that they did that more than once. There's the scene when he's a little kid. He's playing with her in his front yard after killing the bird. And the mom, you know, looks out about the window. And then the house kind of decays. Like his childhood home gets boarded up and decaying, and you kind of get the sense when they do that, like, okay, that house ages. And, like, the house is where your relationships are built. The home is very symbolic in movies as, like, the emotional core of your family life, and then they show this house having decayed, and you're like, okay, you get the sense that he's destined to fail in this effort to hide her.
Yeah.
Because that house visual, I thought, was key to that. And then the house collapsing at the end was like a repetition of that in a bigger way, where it was like the house in his childhood becoming dilapidated was a symbol of, like, okay, he's gonna fail. The house where they met collapsing was the culmination of that. Like, yes, he has in fact failed. That was just a very, I talk about this in almost every movie. Like, the visual communication there was superb.
That's why Howard was the villain, though.
Yeah, Howard was the mad scientist.
If not for him, he may have succeeded in hiding her in her.
Oh yeah, if it was just Stan, Mark Ruffalo's character, he totally would have succeeded. He had no idea what to do.
Between the two of them, they almost killed an entire bottle of whiskey.
Yeah, that was a great.
Also got really stoned talking about the Clash.
That was a great scene. Then at the end of the movie, when he's trying to offer her a drink, and he's like, "I'm sorry, I thought I had more to drink," because they fucking killed his whole bottle of whiskey.
Unprofessional.
Very unprofessional. I would not hire their firm.
What kind of Yelp review would you give them?
You would give them 1 star. I don't even remember what they did for me.
Yeah. Well, they can erase any bad memories of their service. Well, with a budget like of what do they have? 20 million? They used it well.
Yeah, does that include? All of those actors, like Kate Winslet had done Titanic at that point.
Yeah.
And was a great actress. Jim Carrey obviously is billable. Like Elijah Wood was coming off The Lord of the Rings.
There's got to be a separate. I'm assuming there's a separate budget for casting.
No, I don't think that's how it works, bro. I think those actors just see a really good script and just take a lower paycheck so they can be in a good movie.
Wow, so that's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
To be able to get such big names, it's great.
Because like, think about it. You are Kristen Durst. I know you got all that Limp Bizkit money from your dad, but like,
you want to carve your own path. You don't want to have to rely on the money of your father.
Exactly. She doesn't have
great success. When did hot dog flavored water come out?
It was like 99, 2000, so it was before this movie.
So she's riding the hot dog water money, and like she's
surfing the wave of hot dog flavored water.
She's getting off that hot dog train, and she's making her own set for like a moderate amount of money.
This was after Spider-Man.
Yeah.
This was after Lord of the Rings for Elijah Wood. This is one of the last good movies Jim Carrey ever made. He was coming off a string of successes.
Well, he had recently just done Truman Show, Man on the Moon,
Liar Liar, I think was right around then.
And like
too.
after this movie came out, he did Mr. Popper's Penguins, which was magnifique.
My point is, this movie comes after the peaks of a lot of these actors' careers. These were all extremely bankable actors. Like, Mark Ruffalo was up and coming. Tom Wilkinson was just an established good character actor. But, like, they all
In terms of leads, yeah, like, they must have all looked at this script and just said, like, no, I don't care what it takes. Like, I'm gonna make the time and fit the budget so that I can be in this movie. Because they just knew it was good. Yeah, and then after paying all these actors, they still had enough money to make these sets that are just fucking amazing. They're so impressive. Aided with CGI, which, as I've said in the past, CGI is a great tool for minimal tweaks that just cannot be accomplished any other way. Yes, it should enhance things that you do practically in the ways that you just can't do practically. Like when the people are disappearing from the train station, you can't actually disappear people in a blink of an eye. So it's digitally like painted out. Or like when the boards of the fence disappear, and I'm pretty sure when the car falls down and that whole scene, like I think that was a lot of digital. I don't think there was a lot else that was digitally done in this movie. Not a whole lot. Then the house collapsing at the end. That was about it. For a movie that is largely focused on its visuals, you would think that there would be more digital effect. Yeah, but memories feel real to you. They don't feel like computer simulations. Memories feel real. They should look real. Yeah. And if you want to talk about powerful visuals, we haven't talked about the most powerful visual in the movie yet. Is it Kristen Durst bouncing around on a bed with a tank top and underwear on?
No.
Oh.
Although, nice.
Yeah, hey.
No, it was, you're close, because it involves boobies. It was the dog porn that he was masturbating to when he's trying to hide Clementine in his shame.
In his humiliation. Memory.
And then his mom comes in the room, and she's just like, "Oh, I'll ask you tomorrow." And like, man, that was
relatable. What were you gonna say?
I was just gonna say, so painful. But a big part of what makes that pain resonate is that, like, yeah, we've all been there in some way or another. I never had my mom walk in on me while I was jerking off under the sheets with comic book dog human, like, anthropomorphic porn.
Really?
No, oddly specific and not really part of my life experience. Dragon porn, another story, but not the dogs.
Bold.
That was one of those things where it's like, it was very briefly on the screen. It didn't linger on it for some, like, pull out the laughs comedic effect. It was just like...
genuine.
It was genuine. It was there exactly as much as it needed to be, and didn't get referenced back to later. But that showed you how desperate he was to keep his memories. Like, that kind of just disgusting, awful, awkward, painful scene. It really helped paint the emotional picture of, like, oh, he really wants to try to find some place to hide her. He's not half-assing this. He's going to mom catching him jerking off to dog porn territory.
See, that's why I would call this movie... Is dramedy a term?
Absolutely it is.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. This movie is a dramedy in that you can have a funny instance like this, but still have I would still call this a drama more than a comedy.
It is. When I first saw it, when it came out, I was 17, and I definitely thought of it more as a comedy the first time I saw it, because I didn't really grasp the full emotional depth of it.
You were a little moron.
I was a little moron. I was 17.
Yeah, everyone's a moron at 17.
And, like, that's not an insult.
Except for geniuses.
No, even intellectual geniuses are still emotional morons at 17. That's a fact. Don't give me those weird eyes that you're giving me. Listeners, he's giving me weird eyes.
I'm not even looking at you. I'm looking at the roof.
It's weird the way he's not looking at me.
I'm thinking and looking at the roof. That's how I think I look up.
There's lots of kinds of intelligence, and you can be far in advance of your age in certain aspects, but not in all aspects. There's people who are Casanovas who are very emotionally mature at 17. They're probably not also, Einsteinian geniuses. Look, we're getting off track here. The point is...
What is the point?
That when I was 17, I thought of it more as a comedy.
Mm-hmm.
And upon subsequent watchings, through my 20s and now beyond, it's more and more revealed itself to me as a very poignant, touching, sad drama that happens to have some cute or funny moments in it. Nothing's played for yucks, though. There's no LOLs. There's a couple LOLs. But they're not done to be... Like, even the laughs are there fully in service of the story. Nothing is done just as a joke for a joke's sake like it would be in a comedy.
Yeah, no, it's laughing at relatable situations that he goes through or has gone through.
Yes.
Or it's all real life situations that you could see as funny, but it's not like a setup or with a punchline.
One of the funniest scenes to me was when they're playing the pillow suffocating game, and he's like struggling and pretending like he's dying, and then as part of his quote unquote struggle, he like grabs her tits and he grabs her ass.
We've all been there.
I mean, maybe we have. Not in that exact situation with the pillow.
I don't know about you personally. I love being like deprived of oxygen. Sorry,
Mr. Carradine, we're gonna have to ask you to
hey, have some respect for Kung Fu, man.
Yeah, alright. But, like, that was a very cute moment. Like, every relationship has those little, like, stupid games that you play where you also just use it as an excuse to touch your sexy partner.
Yeah.
And, like, it was funny the way that he did it, and then he pretended to actually be dead. And she, like, kind of got worried. Half worried, fake worried, but he, like, did a good job of faking he was dead. Like, that whole scene was just funny, but it was funny in, like, a cute relationship way that was very natural in the course of the relationship that they were portraying in like the story of these memories.
Yeah, it's natural, relatable. Yeah, I agree.
You know, a lot of the time we talk about like the target audience or the reason why a movie got made. I think for this, the target audience is just people who like good movies. Like, I think this movie can appeal to anybody, right?
It kind of. I think the target audience is just anyone that's been in a failed relationship, which is a huge... I mean, how many people do you know that got married to their high school sweetie? Not a
I
whole
think
lot.
I was in the middle of my first actual relationship when I saw this movie, and it failed soon afterward.
Yeah. Well, it's so relatable to when you... Especially, it's relatable in the moment. It's not a movie I would recommend to someone that is, like, recently broken up and still feeling it. Or maybe it is.
No, I think it absolutely is.
It might be a movie, though. It might give you hope in the end,
I think it's cathartic.
It can be, possibly, but it might also be construed as, like, with the ending, like, oh, maybe fate will bring us back together and give you, like, this false sense of hope. To someone that's going through the emotions at that time.
Sometimes a false sense of hope is really healthy, though. I know there was a breakup I went through where, like, I convinced myself after we broke up that it was just because of life circumstances and, you know, we were gonna end up back together, so it was gonna be okay. That didn't happen, and it's good that that didn't happen, but I needed to believe that fantasy at the time.
Oh, you're talking about your relationship with God.
No.
Oh.
No, I that's...
Go on.
You know, I can usually talk about anything, and my relationship with God is, it's very complicated.
Our belief is that God's dead.
Our belief is that all religions are equally valid.
Except
which is to say...
they're all bad.
Not very valid.
They're all terrible. Well, what's the one that can let you have, like, 15 wives?
That's a certain offshoot sect of Mormonism.
That's the one I want.
That's...
What the fuck? Don't even say that's bullshit.
I think let's get back to the question at hand, which is, who is this movie for? Anyone who has an hour and 45 minutes of their time to really pay attention to something. That's my answer. I think this movie is good. Like, it's good for you. Like, this is soul medicine, soul food medicine. This is a spiritual nourishment to watch this movie.
It is. And I think it's also... I think it's the demographic, it could be anyone, but I think especially if you're someone dealing with a breakup.
Or, honestly, someone who's in a happy relationship. Because it shows you how if you get complacent, or if you get disconnected, you get bored, you get... Like, all the things that break their relationship down, those things don't have to happen.
That's true.
Though, and, like, really, Joel was the one who allowed...
She didn't change.
She didn't change. Clementine did not change in this. As far as we see, especially when you account for the fact that he kind of was idealizing her earlier self. Clementine gives a speech right when they meet at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
She's just a fucked up girl looking for, you know...
She's been up front the whole time.
She's been up front. She is so honest. She's honest the whole time. And he's not honest, and he allows his personal dishonesty, his emotional, like, cloisteredness to poison the relationship. And if you're in a happy relationship and then you watch this movie and you think, have I been holding back? Have I not been my true self? This movie could show you why that is something you shouldn't do. Just be you, because she loves you, or he loves you for who you are. Most likely, or it's a sham of a relationship, in which case, get out! But, you know, if that person loves you for who you are, just be more of what you are.
Well, I think the perspective can also be taken from a woman's point of view, in that, I mean, like you said, it's mostly Joel's fault for the way things go.
She's a drunk,
but
she's a little, you know, she's not blameless.
Well, that's what I'm saying, is that it can also be seen that when someone is unwilling to open up, or is prudish and, you know, self-reserved and whatever, that your way of dealing with that, because she took a somewhat self-destructive route when he wasn't willing to open up, and rather than have it all boils down to the common problem of lack of communication. They were shut off to each other. Didn't change her personality, but what she was feeling. I guess she expressed what she was feeling.
Yeah, I mean, even at the very end of their relationship, which is the beginning of the movie, at the flea market, and she says that she wants to have a baby. And he just goes, "You really think you could take care of a kid?" And she gets offended, which she should.
Oh,
You don't just say that about someone. Like, let's talk about the worst person to question the parenting abilities of. Number one, woman who just said she wants to have a baby. Don't say, "Oh, do you really think you could take care of a kid?" And then when she got offended and wanted to talk about it, he just was like, "I don't want to talk about it." Like, that's his fault. That's all his fault.
Yeah. I mean, I think that most of what went wrong was his fault. But I also feel as though, it was really in the end both of them in some way.
Of course. But I think it was her in a way that it had always been her. She was who she was, and she was imperfect, and her imperfections played a role in the end of the relationship. He was dishonest with himself. No one's perfect, and if the match isn't right because of who you are, that's one thing, right? But like, she was honest about herself. And she was impulsive, and she was easily bored, and she was kind of an alcoholic, maybe. She's definitely at least a lush, you might say. Or in his words, a wino.
That's true.
So, like, sure, like, she had her flaws, but they were there from the start. So if he was going to say, "I love you," in spite of those things, it was his fault that he changed his mind. Because she didn't change her mind. He was not being honest with himself. And that bled over into not being honest with her, which led to the downfall of the relationship. Which is why I think this movie's good if you're in a good relationship. Because it can go bad without either of you, like, fundamentally changing. It takes work. And he was the one who stopped putting in the work,
On that point, I'm going to have to disagree. I don't think that Joel was 100% to blame, but that's just kind of how relationships go with incompatible people or with people unwilling to communicate or change their behavior to make something work. And neither of them seemed willing to change.
Yeah, they weren't fundamentally incompatible.
No. But I felt like they were both stubborn in their own ways.
Wait a minute. I changed my mind. It was entirely Clementine's fault that they broke up. Do you know why?
Because she crashed his car into a fire hydrant.
Because she would pronounce library, library.
Oh, you make a good point.
Library.
So,
there's an R in there.
Yeah,
It's the house where you learn. It's the symbol of intellect. And you say its name wrong? Library?
I'm not gonna lie. When he
You're not gonna lie, Barry?
Jesus Christ. That was a good one. High five. I'm not gonna lie. I definitely agreed with him. That was on the tape, right?
It was on the tape, yeah.
I was like, oh yeah. Yeah, that'll do it.
Yeah, library. That's pretty bad. But after hearing that, he still chased her into the hall. He told her to wait.
You know why? It's because she heard it too.
I think that's the key in terms of like the message of like, what can you take away from this movie to help your relationship is just, you should show your warts to your partner. And you should expose...
Especially if they're genital.
Well,
you should let them know.
For sure. They gotta know that shit, And you should also be willing to expose your partner's warts to them and trust that they're going to take it in stride. To just say like, "Hey, just so you know, that's pronounced library, and when you say library, it sounds fucking dumb." And don't just say that in the tape after you erase her from your memory. Like, say that in the moment, and you'll all be better for it.
Well, that just goes to show... Jesus!
Bless you.
The term eternal sunshine, the spotless mind, refers to the feeling of bliss or contentment to not holding on to negative emotion or memory.
Yeah. Contentment's the better word there because it's not bliss. I do not believe
I think I
bliss.
misspoke when I said bliss, but it's contentment and overall just happiness. Yeah, no, contentment is, I think, the word.
I think happiness involves negativity. I don't know if that's just my weird fucked up worldview, but like, to me, The world is a negative, shitty, painful place, and happiness comes from understanding it and experiencing it and internalizing it and processing it and working through it and coming out the other side of negativity to a place of happiness. Happiness is like, it's a state of almost triumph for me. Not that it's accomplishment based, but happiness without the intervening negativity is not real. It is contentment at best.
Well, another interpretation of Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind is also that ignorance is bliss. That's kind of the idea. It's like the principle of the company, or the idea of being able to remove anything that is painful to remember. Ignorance is bliss, but it turns out not to be true.
Yeah, I mean, Lacuna, the name of the company,
Lagunitas. They ended up becoming a beer company, which is another great way to forget your bad mistakes. Oh, nailed it right off the top of my head.
Zing!
Zinger.
Lacuna means like it has a couple meanings, but one is if there's an ancient document, like fucking papyrus, and there's a hole in it where you can't read the ancient manuscript, that's called a lacuna. It's like a gap in memory, basically, literally. Or it also means like a hole in a lake. There's various definitions of lacuna that involve a gap.
Forget your worries.
For the rest of your days.
Lacuna Matata.
So the name of the company on its face is that they're just going to put a hole in your memory, in your record of your life. I guess the point is that ignorance is easy. Ignorance is not bliss. There's a big difference.
They prove in this movie that is not the case. So, because the spotless mind is to say spotless in terms of negative emotion. So, it's always sunny on someone that doesn't feel negative emotions. Eternal sunshine of the spotless mind.
Right, but eternal sunshine will give you fucking skin cancer and you'll die at 40.
It just goes to show... I don't think that's what they're going for with the message. It goes to show that the title of the movie doesn't reflect the overall message of the movie.
No, it is ironically the opposite.
Yeah.
All right. I think we're going to wrap this podcast up.
Wrap it up tight.
And we've given scores and grades with various levels of sincerity and seriousness before. I'm going to go full sincerity.
No.
I've actually already done it like an hour ago.
You give it a 10 out of 10.
I said this way earlier in the podcast, and I know, you know how I know that stayed in? Because I do the editing.
Do it with a Brooklyn accent.
I don't know what that means.
10 out of 10.
10 and 10.
10 out of 10.
No, we're not doing that. That's cut.
Oh, fuck.
So, there's movies I love that I would say are legitimately not very good. That I just happen to enjoy watching. But on an objective, intellectual, critical level, I'm like, they kind of sucked, but I loved it. This movie I give a 10 out of 10 in every way. It's an A+ movie. I think if you don't enjoy it, you weren't paying attention. I give this movie a 10. What do you say, Johnny?
Well, first of all, you did have one complaint, so I feel like it's only fair to give it a 9.9 out of 10. Based off the tile count.
Wrong.
Sorry, what?
Wrong.
Alright, so my ratings are a little bit more intricate, a little more complicated than that. There's a film from 1984 that I grew up watching called Dreamscape. It's a not very well-known movie, but I highly recommend it. It's a movie recommendation.
Was it the prequel to Tron?
No, it's just a really bad 80s movie about dreams. So, I had this on VHS. Holy shit, it's PG-13? I could have sworn I saw titties in this. Alright, well...
There's titties in Titanic. There's literally Kate Winslet's titties in Titanic. That's PG-13.
Maybe I'm not thinking of Dreamscape. This has Dennis Quaid. He's too big to have been in this movie.
Oh my god.
Anyway, so I'm sticking to my Dreamscape theme. I'd give this Dreamscape times 3 out of Inception.
What?
Yes.
That's bullshit.
That's not bullshit.
That's absolute
Watch Dreamscape
bullshit. No,
3
that's-
times and watch Inception and you'll know what I mean.
That's bullshit.
How is that bullshit? Well, guys, this has been Johnny.
And this is Ryan.
Signing off. See you next time.
Goodbye.
Bye.